We're live.
All right, guys. Welcome to
Hi, guys.
Here.
What's up?
My bad. I just cut you off. You were
Do your thing. Never mind. Yeah, I'm painting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just welcoming everybody. We're gonna do a
take the reins, dog.
Yeah, got it. We're gonna do a quick review of the like a recap of the tournament we had this past weekend. Start out with I appreciate everybody coming out. It was a blast. I didn't play it all, but getting to see it from the other side is huge, and it was just a great time. And we're gonna let Zach and Evan and Gavin are all going to talk about some of their games and how things went, and then we'll just briefly kind of just mention everybody. I know we all like to hear our names. That's why we come out and crush each other. So we'll announce some names and bring up some people. And I see Kevin's already in there, Mr. Best Overall Death or Best in Faction Death right there, already in the chat. So nice to have you on here, Kevin. And now I'll just step back and let these guys take the reins.
Yeah, I mean, who do y'all want to go first? What are we doing?
You can start out. You can go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I was playing KO, as those of you who were there know. My name is Zach, by the way. I ended up taking best overall, winning the event, but we're going to go through some of the games and how we got there. Game 1, I had Caleb Hastings and his Seraphon list. And he had Thunder Lizard and a bunch of Stegodons and whatnot. So he was playing Stegogeddon. It was a really cool list if you saw it. He had a Celestial Huracanum mounted on one of the Stegodons to be his Engine of the Gods. And he had several other conversions as well, including like a Knight Incanter on the back of one, and several other things. It was a really cool looking army.
Like LEDs inside of it. It was pretty cool. He
had a ton. And it was a really cool looking army, fun list. It does more than you think it does when you get it on the board and being coalesced. It reduces all damage by 1. So that played a pretty good role in our game since a lot of KO damage is damage 2. Halved a lot of the boat shooting. So we played that game. I deployed in the corner. It was on Places of Arcane Power. So we both knew we both had a ton of shooting. We both knew that we had to eliminate each other's heroes to win the game. And we both went along that game plan. I gave him the first turn because I had the option with my 2 battalions. And his Slan, he rolled a 10+ on his Comet's Call, and he was able to do D3 mortals to all 3 of my heroes. So I knew coming into my first turn that I needed to step on the gas a little bit, because if his Slam was alive with all those Stegodons shooting, he could probably take out my heroes pretty quick and end the game for me. I dropped the Warp Lightning on a few of his things. It didn't do a ton of damage, but it did some chip damage on the Bastiladon, which ended up being important. And then I shot everything into the engine and the Slan and killed them both, taking them off of one of the objectives. We went into the roll-off. He got the turn. And he used it to put a lot of shooting into my characters, but being in the garrisons, they were actually pretty hard to kill. Being -2 to hit and having 3-up save, and one of them was re-rolling all saves. He did kill my gun hauler and put quite a few wounds on 2 of the heroes. I think killing one outright turn 2. So I think at the end of his second turn, I had 1 wound left on one hero, and then 5 wounds left on another. And then into my turn, I jumped out with all my Arcanauts. I ended up sweeping most of his stuff off the board in that turn, and then doubled, which ended up sealing the game for me. If he had gotten that next turn, there was a chance that he could have finished off my heroes and scored enough points to keep me from coming back. But without being able to do that, I ended up taking the game. It was a really good game. He had even though it was a more fun list, he had some of the tools to win that mission since all my heroes were small. So we ended up making a really fun game. It's always fun playing with Caleb. I've played him a few times now at grand tournaments, and he's always a fun game. Really nice guy if you ever get to play him.
Yeah, all the guys that came down from Dallas were fun. It was cool to see them. We haven't seen them in a while. I think Caleb and I played at War Games Con in 2019. That was a fun game too. And he was still doing the same thing, Thunderquake.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fun.
It sounds like it was pretty clutch to get the engine off the board that
Yeah.
early. Because if it was able to heal all his heroes, it could have been a problem.
It would have very much been an issue. And if his engine didn't go down there, it could have just charged right in. Because all my heroes were sitting right in front of it in the Ironclad.
Yeah.
If he did the AoE damage pulse a couple times, they all would have died. And to avoid me talking too much in a row, I mean, why don't we just take turns talking about each game as we go?
Oh,
Okay.
that was the first one?
Yeah, that's
Talk about your game, Evan.
My first one was against Chris, and he was playing Blades of Corn. And Arcane Power, I believe it was. Very interesting matchup. He had like 4 or 5 heroes from the start, so I was at a bit of a disadvantage on that because I only have 3. But I set it up in a way where I made him go first. He moved everything onto the center objective, and then I went for the side I tried to go for one of the side objectives with the Hag, and I think we both knew that they weren't that like no one was going to target the Hag. I mean, 16 wounds with D6 healing and a 5-up feel no pain. I don't think there was any way to try and easily get her off the board. I feel like it would have been too much energy spent. So she went over there, and then I kind of started sweeping from that side while he held the center, and I moved up with a 6 block of trolls and the Trog boss. Kind of whiffed into his Chaos Warriors, who had Bronze Flesh on them, and they were re-rolling saves. So I was having a real tough time actually getting through them. And I tried to set it up in a way where, because I ended up getting the double turn, tried to set up in a way where his Chaos Lord on Manticore, which he put all his buffs on, would not get into combat with my Trog boss. And I killed his hero, so that was in the center. He had a foot Chaos Lord that I had killed with throwing the rocks and just killing him with mortal wounds. So once that happened, I was poised to take the center objective, and he had his Carcage Rack on the third objective on the far side. So I wasn't too worried about that, although I had a 6 block of trolls going to harass that side as well. Well, I forgot about his... I almost lost the game because I forgot that the Blood Tithe points allow him to fight in choose a unit to fight in the hero phase. So he killed the trolls he was tied up in, and then flew over and one-shot my Trog boss, which was pretty insane. But it ended up working somewhat in my favor because now that he had no other heroes left other than the Carcage Rack and the Manticore. The Manticore had to sit on the middle objective. And
it was all of his damage.
Yeah, once that happened, it was, I ended up killing the Carcage Rack and teleporting my Gloomspite hero to that spot and ended up moving on it the following turn. So because of those two things, his Chaos Manticore was stuck in place on the center objective, and in the meantime, the whole game the Troll Hag was sitting on the far objective, just getting the max points. So that's really what ended up winning me the game. It was really, really close. He probably could have wiped the board if he hadn't gone after the Trog boss and got stuck there. So plus the Carcage Rack got stuck too, unfortunately.
You're playing that new White Dwarf Battalion for the Trogs there.
Yeah, that I used to. When that White Dwarf Battalion first came out, with the retreat in charge, I really didn't think it was all that special. I was really hoping for a run in charge instead. But that's basically the trolls slingshotting off of the 15 block that he had in the center and just slinging off whatever they didn't want to be in combat with. Even just getting out of combat in an unfavorable position and getting back in with the same unit. I was able to kill the Carcage Rack with that. I was able to kill his Footlord with that. I was able to kill his... what is that thing called? His priest with that. Like, there were plenty of things where the slingshot was able to actually help me take in play. And plus I got like 2 turns of healing off, so that really helped too. So, but yeah, it was a very close game.
Oh yeah, he said.
Does it let you shoot and charge, or just charge?
I can shoot and charge in this after a retreat.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It seems like both of you forgot about Blood Tithe, because I believe he mentioned
yes, there was
he
one
forgot
point.
to blood tide your
I don't know if it would
teleport.
have changed the points. We would have tied. That's what it was. We would have tied if he actually forgot to spend some blood tithe points on stopping me from teleporting. Because I had used the teleport to get the wizard where the Karadron was after I killed it, and tried to take the objective. But after that, because we were already like almost done with the turn when he remembered that he could have done that. So because of that, I was able to swing the win. And I actually think if we had tied, he would have won because I ended up going 17-3, so he would have won off of auxiliaries.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a very good game. Good first game in the tournament.
You got to remember that blood tithe.
Yeah, I always forget. I fight Khorne so rarely that every time it catches me off guard, and I forgot how quickly. Like I was just cleaning up his army, and I completely neglected to see how many blood tithe points he was actually at. So, especially after the double turn. So
yeah, that blood tithe it'll catch you up quick if you got a good tough hero out there, like he had with his mana core, like a big beat stick that he could take. It'll even the odds up real quick.
Yeah. No, I really like it. We talked about it before, but I kind of wish Slaanesh had something like that because it can be very clutch where it changes the whole pace of the game with that one ability.
No, sir. That belongs to Khorne.
Table's awesome. I love that table.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, that's it for round one. Did you guys want to say anything?
Yeah, Gavin had a round one.
Oh yeah, I was playing Ringer, and I was able to play one of the Dallas guys that came down. I think it was Joe Grady. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's either Joe or John. I think it was Joe.
John.
And Daryl Grady, the guy who he got best in faction chaos. It seemed like he had a lot of fun. That was good to see. But he had Magican, lots of Blight Kings, and he was lower drops to me. He took first turn and kind of like scrunched in the middle, which was a right call. What got me kind of back in the game a little bit was that I got really lucky on my blood boils and got 12 mortal wounds on his Great Unclean One.
Man.
Like on turn 1 or 2. I just spiked it, and he's like, oh. I was like, oh. And so it kind of got me back in the game a little bit, but he wound up edging me out at the very end of the game because the Karkadrak Lord couldn't survive long enough to win the game for me. But it was really fun.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he seemed like he had a lot of fun, so it was close competitive game. It was always fun to play people from out of town. I hadn't played him before, so it was cool to meet him and see him. And it seemed like it was one of his first couple of tournaments. He seemed newer, so it was good to see him have a lot of fun and have some success. So
cool army.
It's cool.
Yeah,
all the Blight Kings.
Blight Kings are awesome.
And we threw that ringer list together that morning. We had been talking about bringing a cities ringer, and then we were looking at all the 25 mil bases, and we were like, "Fuck that!"
Yeah, he kept piling on infantry. There was 60 infantry and then 70 infantry, and then I was just I look at the cavalry for Khorne. I'm like, I don't want to play infantry. I'll just play that instead. And I was only playing because the homie Mr. Robinson, Hunter Robinson, wound up having his kid a little earlier than expected, so he had to drop. But when you guys see Hunter, be sure to congratulate him on his firstborn. So he had a good excuse to not go to the tournament. So it was acceptable that I had to play Ringer.
Still a shame we didn't get to see the Khorne Dragon.
Yeah, he was bringing it.
I
was wondering what was going on that morning because we were supposed to be carpooling. So I just kept texting. I'm like, hey, when are you coming over? What's going on here? He just sent me a picture of the birth certificate. Here's where I've been all night. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Good excuse, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, going around 2, we were playing Better Part of Valor, the mission where only battle line scores. And before I kind of talk about my opponent in round 2, James West, who, if you know James, he's a really, really good player. I want to talk a little bit about how we evaluate when we kind of look at a tournament and we kind of evaluate the things we expect to do well at any given event after looking at the list. Gavin and I, a lot of the time, we like to say, if you're going to an event, you can expect, if you have a good list, even if you're not a great player or an experienced player, I should say, you can probably expect to go 3-2 at least. Or if you're a really good player, even if you're playing a bad list, you can probably expect to go 3-2. And if you are a good player with a good list, you can look at going 4-1 usually. And then if you get like super lucky, you'll go 5-0. Even though I didn't go 5-0 at this event, this game too was the game where I got super lucky. James was a roll for beating me at the end of the game. It opened with me taking first turn, thinking I could drop the vortex on him and get ahead if I could eliminate his battle line. But he ended up having a lot of battle line that was all -1 hit, so it was really hard to. I wasn't rolling particularly well, so I wasn't like spiking and killing him. I committed all to one side of the board to try and remove that side and move on to the next. But what ended up happening was I dropped warp lighting in the middle, committed over to the side like I'd wanted to, and then just didn't kill it like I expected to. And then because of that and some target priority mistakes, I left his Dawn Riders alive, which I should not have. I should have just made sure they died. Because on his turn, he ended up doubling me, and his Dawn Riders retreated out on that side, and on the other side moved in, and he killed both of my side objectives, took the Arcanauts off with the Dawn Riders. And so I was in the hole really fast and double turn in 1-2.
Ideal start, yeah.
Yeah. And and so on my turn too, I was a little bit in the hole. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I told him going to that turn that I think I had to double to win. If I even had one chance, because what was going to happen if I didn't double, I was either going to have to commit to killing his archers or his Dawn Riders in one turn. I couldn't do both in one turn. And if I didn't do both, he would just kill the rest of my Arcanauts and win the game, because his battle line was still scoring on 2 objectives, even though I took him off 1. So what ended up happening was I took a turn, moved everything, and killed all of his Dawn Riders and did some more plink damage. Got the double. And with the double, I was able to move up and kill the rest of his archers. So at that point, my Arcanauts were fairly safe on that 1 objective. But he was still on 2 going into his turn 3. So if he could hold on to those 2 objectives, he wins the game. One thing that was helping him was on his first turn, so back on turn 1, he high rolled his Dispel and got rid of the Warp Lightning. So he was able to stay on that objective and not have to move off or deal with it in some other way. And in his turn, he shuffled some things, got some defensive buffs up, and then handed it back to me, because if I don't, and he ended up doubling as well. So he was able to kill a couple things, and then by the time I got my turn, bottom of turn 4 it was, I needed to remove him from at least one of the objectives to win. And it didn't look likely, because one of the Warden blocks was down to 18, I believe, because I killed 2 models with my Ironclad that turn earlier when I was killing the archers. And the other one was still full. So it was really, really hard to remove them from that objective. But what ended up happening was I put enough fire into it that I was able to remove 11 models out of the unit, and I killed the Cathalar, which was the hero behind it, which is going to remove his ability to auto-pass that unit. Yeah. And so when it came time for Battle Shock, he had lost 11 out of 20, and he had lost 2 previously, so there were 7 models left in the unit, and he had Bravery 8, I believe, or something like that. All I remember was he had to roll like a 1 to 3 or 4, and he wins the game, because they pass, he keeps the objective, gets turn 5, and he burns the objectives and wins. But what ended up happening was he rolled that Battle Shock, had no way to adjust it, and then he rolled a 6, and that unit ran, and I ended up winning the game, because there was no way he could threaten my Arcanauts anymore. So
typical Zach fashion.
Yeah. And on top of that, something I forgot to mention, the Ironclad had Darkness of the Soul on it, so that turn I needed to shoot, I he got to roll against my bravery to see if I even got to shoot. He stopped me from moving, but when it came time to roll the shooting, he rolled low, and I was able to shoot, and then secured it basically. So there's a couple things.
Better to be lucky than good.
Yeah,
true.
Ideal, right? Just roll good. This is what we say. That's all you have to do to win. Just roll good. And so this is my game to get lucky. And if I don't get lucky in this game, James wins, and he has a really good shot at winning the tournament. He ended up in second place, so he still ended up coming back and doing really well. Almost won in the end. Just the secondary points we'll talk about later. But yeah, really good player, really good game. I got lucky to end up winning it.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of what happened in my game too.
Well, I went against Brandon, and Brandon was playing Bigwa. This was the
Brandon Ridge, I think, right?
Yep, Brandon Ridge. Yep, this was the single Maw Crusher list, and same battle plan.
He came down from Dallas too, right?
I think so.
He
Yeah,
came down.
yeah. So a lot of people came down from Dallas.
He was hanging out with the
good.
boys. He seems like he's real funny dude. He was hanging out with the boys all weekend.
Yeah.
We're gonna start us a Harambe chapter in Dallas. Look out, we're growing.
We already took all Houston's players. We're gonna take yours too, dude. All of the assimilation.
Yeah.
So we it was a really good game. I think the destruction against destruction, it's usually like whoever swings first gets the lead. And I was really waiting for him to do it, so I made him go first because I'm only a 3-drop list, so I think in almost every game I went against, I was able to have less drops than my opponent. So
don't want to get double turned by Maw Crusher.
right?
For sure.
Yeah, I definitely. So, but the problem was the objectives were so close to another. I couldn't hold or gain the objective without being within range of the Maw Crusher because of the Mighty Destroyers. And then he also had, if I remember correctly, his Cav could also do Mighty Destroyers or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there was just a lot of threat range. So I actually kind of risked it, and I put the Troll Hag and the Trog Boss on 2 of the objectives in front of the battle line holding it. On his side, though, he actually put his battle line out in front of all his heroes. Even the Maw Crusher was behind it. And the Maw Crusher could have still made it into combat, but he actually chose to sit back. I guess because he didn't want to just like throw his Maw Crusher at something, kill it, and then he dies the second turn. Which
he had a rough game that first one. He ran that Maw
correct.
Crusher.
I do remember him. Yeah, thank you for bringing
guard
that up.
with a Gothazar Harvester.
Yeah, he
It's
did
like one
say
of like 2 things that a Maw Crusher can't kill.
Yeah, right.
Like in the entire game.
Yeah, he did say that that was his after this game he was like, I feel like I'm struggling a little bit because the first game I was playing as aggressive as possible, and then the second game I played as defensive as possible, and it was just, I think, really, if he had switched it around, it might have performed a little bit better because he did play defensively against me. And so once I went up, I kind of was like, worst case, I don't get the roll off, but at least I can get in. So I teleported a 6 block of trolls over to the corner. He had some of the Bone Splitters archers in there. And that they were kind of that was it. That was the only thing on that side. So I knew if I could get into combat with them, they would immediately just be defeated. So, but I mean, it's 40 wounds still. It was a lot to chew through. Didn't get the charge that turn. The Troll Hag moved up, actually dropped the pendulum, and put it right into his battle line. I rolled a 6 the first turn. Just got just really did some damage, and then also I threw a boulder at him. Got all my boulders off. It was pretty good. And then I think that was all I did for that one. But then I got the double turn, and I had a 6 block of trolls actually move up with the Troll Hag, and also I was like, hey, you get to move the pendulum because it was all the endless spell. So he had to move it. Got another 5 mortal wounds off on his Ard boys. And I ended up, with the trolls, killing all those Ard boys. And then I also teleported the Trog boss all the way across the map where those 6 blocks were, so they could get the bonuses from his command ability. The 6 block got in, killed like 12 of the 20 trolls, or 12 of the 20 bone splitters. And so that he was about to lose that one, and he just lost the center one. Now I still controlled all 3 of mine, and they all had like the 3 block battle lines on there. So I was trying to see what would happen because I expected him to come up, but all I had to do was just burn my objectives if he got close enough. So then once I was done, it was his turn. And also, I forgot to mention, I did the shooting attack from the Troll Hag onto his Maw Crusher, and I did like 6 or 7 damage to it. So he bracketed on his movement, so he could not make it across the board in time to try to get my backline. So because of that, he kind of had to sit back and try to mop up the mess, and he moved his cavalry over to the center to cap that battle line, or cap the center objective. So he killed my trolls in the center, and he was about to lose the 1 objective. So he burned that objective, and he also burned his other objective because it was just the 5 Ard boys over there. And he's like, because I need to move up and try to do something. So once he did that, we ended the turn. I won the roll off, and I burned all my objectives, and I won. Because I think I had 12 points of that at that time, and I would have had 12 points because we were going into turn 3, I believe, and then he had, I think, 2. He could have got a maximum of 10, I think, if I remember correctly. So just off of that, there was nothing that he could have done. So
yeah.
But it was a really it could have easily turned bad for me. I think if I hadn't gotten that double turn and his full health Maw Crusher had gone his way with the thing, I think I don't think I would have had anything other than the 6 block of trolls on the side to actually try to take his objective. But his full health Maw Crusher would have been able to come up the center of the board and try to take mine. So that would have been pretty nasty. So, it was a good game.
A lot of destruction games come down to that turn roll off. It's just like, for sure.
Yeah, it always comes down, and I think that was really what happened. Is I got to choose who went first, and so that really played in my favor. I think that
real similar and very linear, right?
Because any attacks he makes against me, I have no save. Any attacks I made against him, because I got the spell off on him for the -1 save. We were both just trading damage. We weren't trading we weren't doing anything. I just happened to have the feel no pains. So
a man's game.
Yeah, just straight up damage. It was a really fun game. I mean,
no bullshit, no crazy command abilities. No
it was much more fun than the game next to me looked like, where we had a Corn player and a Big Wah player for 5 turns do absolutely nothing.
Oh yeah. Shall we go into Justin and Chris?
Oh, just a little bit.
To draw. Draw looking ass. How dare you draw with Big Wah?
Big Wah and Corn. I was like, man, this is like the worst draw I've ever seen.
Well, the thing is, I think Chris, because Chris was staring across the table at 2 Maw Crushers and intimidated them with a Chaos Sword on Manicore into sitting still for 5 turns. A Chaos Sword on Manicore made 2 Maw Crushers sit their ass in their diplomacy zone.
Those little dragons that puffs its fucking neck.
The thing was, he said,
stay over there.
Well, because the thing that we were talking about is he said afterwards, he's like, yeah, we rolled it out to see what would have happened, and I would have killed him, and with the Manticore. And I was just like, are you serious? So he's like, yeah, we rolled it out. I was like,
well, you might have killed one, but the other one would have killed the Manicore. Like you trade.
That's assuming the Manicore.
No, he would have. Yeah, he would. I think he would have built up the Blood Tithe points for the.
His Manicore would have fought first.
He had to charge both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Manicore would have fought first.
It was just Iron Jaws. I'm sorry, not Big One.
The Manicore was set up to fight first and fight twice. So yes, he might have got a Maw Crusher, but that's why you brought 2, Justin. In case
you don't have to fight that guy anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You just kind of run up the sides, take both of them, burn them, and then it's like there's not much you have to do outside. I just can't believe they didn't even fight each other. It was the silliest thing I've ever seen. Like I see Justin like just in the corner of his fucking thing with like these Maw Crushers. I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, you know your Maw Crusher does damage in melee, right? Yeah.
He's got a range attack and just not very far.
Oh yeah. It was Scream.
Maw Crusher didn't do anything.
Oh, they were all.
I
I think the closest units were maybe like 24 inches or more. Like, they were very far apart from each other.
That's funny.
So yeah, that was my game too, though. How about you, Gavin? How'd the ringer list do?
Yeah. Speaking of simple games, I played Cliff for my second game, and our game was like 23 minutes long.
Funny how giants can do that.
I was playing Corn, and he was playing Sons of Behemoth, and we like looked at each other. I'm like, "You want to play this nerd shit?" And he's like, "Nah." And I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna fight in the middle." And we fought in the middle. And Giants beat Corn when you fight in the middle. I found that
Don't
out.
say.
But there was one thing that was cool. We had one of the secondaries for that mission packet was you had to pick a champion, and then if your champion killed the other player's champion, you got your secondary.
Yep.
But so my Karkadrak and his Mega Gargant fought in the center of the battlefield for like 5 rounds of combat, consecutive rounds of combat, because I had unrunnable save, and he has 35 wounds, so and a reroll on his save. So it took us like 5 rounds of combat. I finally killed him, and then he fell on my Karkadrak and killed my Karkadrak.
I actually forgot to mention. So I did the dumbest play earlier because I saw that auxiliary, and I totally forgot that I have to kill his with my champion. I was thinking it was like the bait, where like you just pick something to try not to die or whatever. And I picked my Fungoid Cave Shaman, and he picked his Maw Crusher. And I was like, wait a second. I don't think I can actually kill the Maw Crusher with my Fungoid. Like, no matter how hard I try. And I was just like, I just threw away an auxiliary. I don't know why I did that.
Chris in chat, he's like, it's the first time.
I don't know why you did it either.
It was because I was trying to play under. That was the.
This is the first time he's ever saw someone use Mighty Destroyers to go backwards. I'm gonna use my Mighty Destroyers move to retreat.
Should be
I was like,
should be able to do that.
It was
written into the rule. You have to end closer.
Yeah, we should have. We probably should have just confiscated his Maw Crushers at that point.
You
don't get to use
certainly
take your
not
Iron Jaws card.
Best destruction quality, if you ask me.
You're just kidding, Justin. We love you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought of that when you said it. I was just like, that was the dumbest play I think I ever have done.
Fungoid.
No, that was it.
Okay.
Fungoid versus a Maw Crusher.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, well, he can't kill my Fungoid. I'm just gonna teleport all over the place. And then he's like, all right. I mean, how are you gonna kill the Maw Crusher? So stupid.
I'm gonna Arcane Bolt that thing to death.
I was like, I guess I could try, but
25 turns.
he almost died from the endless spell. The Arachna Cauldron. He almost died every fucking game because of that thing.
Killing himself.
Yes,
with
like
the
he just.
Cauldron.
I would roll like a 3 and then never make the feel no pain. Oh goodness. All right. So game 3, how'd you do, Zach?
Game 3 was Scorched Earth, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I played against Kyle Valdez, Valdi. I don't know if you've ever played at a tournament that has had Kyle Valdez or played against him, but something he didn't even know coming into the game apparently. So I'd never played Kyle at the event before, but coming to the game, I said, "Hey, are we going to have some Valdez moments here?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, it's if everybody else at the tournament, every time you're at an event, you look over and you see Kyle Valdez playing a game, and you know it's him because you just hear him yelling and hooting and hollering, and you're like, man, I wish I was over there watching that game, not doing my game." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing." I was like, "Yeah, Kyle, everybody
knows." That was my first time ever seeing. Yeah, that was my first time ever seeing Kyle at a tournament, and I knew, I knew after the first game how it was. When he was fighting Ryan, and they're just like screaming at each other. I'm just like, Jesus, what's happening over there?
It's always when he finally got that Slayer of Kings off. Get in the sword. Get in there!
Yeah, I remember he was loud when he killed Catacross with it. Yes!
Get in the
It's always
sword!
funny.
Get your ass in there!
Almost as loud as the Wog. Game 5.
Yeah. Kyle was playing Host of the Everchosen with Archaon, Mark Slanesh, with some Varangard and some Marauders and Bellicor. He put Bellicor on my Ironclad, which is, what you should do. The only other option would be the Chemist to stop me maybe on a 5-up from dropping the Vortex. We kind of talked that out before the game, and he decided to put it in the Ironclad.
I think that's the wiser choice.
Yeah, he can't stop it from teleporting. We kind of talked about that, but he could maybe stop it from shooting. So we just kind of talked it out a little bit there. We had a fun game. It was just talking most of the time and hanging out. But I took first turn, dropped the Vortex on his Marauders. My goal was to kill his Sorcerer Lord because I knew that if the Sorcerer Lord was dead, because it was his only source of a teleport, which I told him he should put it on his Archaon, and I think he's planning to do that in the future.
Yeah,
you taught him the lesson the hard way, huh?
Yeah, but once that teleport's off the board, I don't really fear for my back objectives anymore. So I killed that. I killed Bellicor. Almost finished off his 20 Marauders, but their Battle Shock immunes, I was able to finish them off. And I tied up his Marauders and his Marauder Horsemen with my Engine Riggers with the Grapnel Launcher, so they couldn't retreat and move on to other objectives. Didn't try to kill Archaon. Did a couple wounds to the War Shrine. And that was kind of my turn 1. And then I screened out my Ironclad a little bit. Didn't even try to shoot with it. I just moved it away into the corner. Didn't want to risk leaving it exposed if it wasn't going to shoot, most likely.
Yeah, because Archaon will beat it to death.
Yeah. And he definitely fought it later. Round 2, he moved up, killed all my characters, my 2 chemists that were there, my engine riggers that were holding his battle line up. And that was about it, because I had screened. I used those 2 heroes and the engine riggers to screen him pretty well, so he wasn't able to get past them. And then we rolled off, and I ended up getting the roll off. And round 2, I moved up on that side with a frigate and an Ironclad. On the other side of the board, I took a frigate to that objective. With all my Arcanauts just sitting on my back objectives, and my Gunhauler moved up. And this was the only time in the event that I rolled with my Gunhauler as a ram that on the 2-up does D6 mortal wounds. This is the only time in the event I got the ram to go off, and it did 1 mortal wound. So, yeah. And then my frigate and Ironclad shot into the Varangard, because I wasn't even going to try to kill Archaon. It's not worth trying. And I forgot that he had the reroll save Triumph. So I shot all of it into that and didn't kill. I killed 1 model, I think. got to watch him roll 3 War Shrine Feel No Pains and roll 3 6s and just yell and scream. I thought it was hilarious. And then so he goes on his turn and charges my frigate with his Varangard and my Ironclad with Archaon, and he deletes that frigate so bad that it was worth 3 different frigates of dead frigate. He did 36 damage with just the swords, and we didn't even roll the horses. I was like, this is not worth doing.
Yes.
And Archaon, he rolled really, really, really bad with Archaon though, and did 4 to 6 damage on the Ironclad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that frigate, I used the Sky Mines on Archaon, because the Sky Mine relic on that frigate, at the start of the charge phase or combat phase, you pick a flying unit within 6 and you roll and you do mortal wounds based on the roll. I ended up doing 3 mortal wounds to Archaon with it. He ended up taking 2, and the frigate took 1 back, and then Archaon healed the 2. So the Sky Mines only did 1 mortal wound to me and nothing to him in the end.
I like how your Ram and Sky Mines are
it was
completely
it was
useless.
bad.
Archaon is just tough to everything. He's got the 4+ Feel No Pain. or 4+ mortal wound save, not feel no pain. Then he has a magic negate, and he has a heal with 20 wounds, and then a bunch of ways to make his 3+ save, like just not let damage through. Like,
and then he doubled me. Fought the Ironclad again, took it to like 3 wounds remaining with Archaon.
He fought the Ironclad twice with Archaon and didn't kill it.
Yeah.
Kyle, you suck, bro.
The first round, the Ironclad was rerolling all of its saves, so he wasn't going to kill it that round. He just wanted to hurt it. He didn't even do like average damage. And then the second time he rolled not great either. He should have killed it the second time, but he didn't end up killing it. And the Varangard moved towards.
Did he miss? Did he point? Did he point at the Ironclad?
Yeah.
In Kyle Valdez fashion.
He didn't point at it, and we got to rolling, and he rolled a couple ones, and he just looked at it like I should have pointed. I was like, Kyle, roll your dice again. That was what you were fighting. So we ended up calling it as he had pointed, and he re-rolled them. It still didn't kill it. It was a sad day for Kyle. And then on the double, his Varangard got like 11 inches from my Arcanauts that were holding my back objectives, and he just didn't roll it with the reroll. And then in my turn, I basically just mopped up the objectives, and it was pretty much over at that point. So we shook hands and called it.
You know what would have helped you with that, Kyle, is if you had the teleport on Archaon. You could have got those Varangard a lot closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear a blue scribe is pretty good too. Rerolling casting rolls.
Overload them with tech right now.
Yeah, I know, right? Is this one thing at a time? Yeah.
But I don't know if you've seen his army out there. Like, it's worth going to look up because he did some awesome conversions with that Archaon and put like a Magmadroth and a Stardrake and a Carnosaur head instead of the dragon heads.
Made it 3 feet tall. It's impossible to miss.
It's like
one best painted, right?
Because he put Archaon on top of a castle on that base. It's like a toddler. Coming to the event, he sent us a picture of it seat belted into his passenger seat, going to the HOV lane.
Funny.
But that was my game 3. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I had probably the game. I would say this was kind of tied between my game with James, game 4, where this was a game that I shouldn't have won. And the reason why I say that is I was going against Suns, and it was on Scorched Earth. So I was like, there's no way that I can make this work. Because once again, destruction versus destruction. We're all 5-up saves. So literally everything that we swing into each other is just going through straight up damage. But what did save me is that Suns don't have a battalion. And because of that, I got to choose the turn order for the first round, and I needed him to have to stay back and capture his objectives. So that's exactly what happened. Is I made him go first. He had to sit there with almost all his entire army, and he only moved up the 3 block of man crushers into combat. Now they killed
Trevor, right?
Trevor.
So you played.
Yep, playing against Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. It was Trevor. That was fine. And he's the one with the gate. He had the Suns list with the Gatebreaker, and both.
I think he wound up doing fairly well too. He went 3-2, I think.
Yes. He actually ended up outplacing me in the total. So.
That always winds up like that on those 3-2 brackets.
Yeah, he did really well. So he moved up the 3 man crushers, killed 2 out of 3 of my. It was like a 3 block that I had, and he ended up doing quite a bit of damage, but that's all he had up there. And the problem is with War Stomper Tribe is his abilities don't proc on me, so he doesn't get any of the bonuses for extra damage and stuff.
Yeah.
So I definitely had the good counter list, and because I made him go first and he had to sit back, I was able to kill the 3 block that he had of man crushers. And then I had already captured all my objectives, so I moved up and basically, because I knew he could walk over me, I knew he could just run and take the objectives, so I really had to get into combat with him and try to take his stuff, and that's exactly how it went down. I teleported my Trog boss to one of the corners, and then I had just everything just try to move up and take it, and it was probably the bloodiest battle I think I've ever played. We ended up like by the time we just kept to summarize it, all we did was just trade objectives back and forth. But I was able to hold my 2 on the far side. He lost both of his. But we never burnt him until turn 5. We literally went turn 5 without a single objective burned. And we just kept trading it because we were like, well, we'll just try to save him up and stuff. So then, we just kept trading. Everything was dead except for I had one. I'm sorry, I had a 3 block of rock guts still alive, and I had the troll hag because she ended up killing one of the mega gargants, and and then my trog boss died. So I literally had that was it. I just had the troll hag, the 3 block of rock guts, and I think a single fell water left, and he had 1 man crusher left with like 8 wounds, and we were just sitting on the opposite sides of the other. He would have tied with me if he could have made it to my far objective and then just burned all 3, but he could not. Because he was bracketed so much, he couldn't make it even with a 6-inch run. So because of that, we just burned all the objectives, and I got really lucky because I rolled like a 3 on one of them, and I think he rolled like a 2 and a 3, but I had a +1 because of my leader being in there. So I ended up getting I think 4 points ahead of he did. So I mean, basically what I took away from it is if he had a chance to go first, he would have probably tabled me. So, or I'm sorry, if he had gone second, if he made me go first and I had to sit back and capture the objectives, he could have run up and done what I did, but he would have done it better and probably tabled me. So yeah, I going back to what you were saying, Zach, I think it was luck that kind of carried that one. So.
Yeah, I know. Me and Kyle, after our game finished, we walked over to your table and just witnessed the bloodbath. Everything was dead. There were like 4 models.
I think I got 2 resurrects off too, and he just killed both of them.
He just kept killing them.
There was like I was like, man, I could barely like keep up with this guy. So, but yeah, the hag is just like, oh my god. I kind of put her in the list because she's just such a cool model. But she has been, especially with that 5-up, she's the best model in the entire range as far as combat wise. I mean, she never died the entire. No, she died once. It was my 5th game. That was the only time she died, and then I found out she can possibly resurrect. So thank you, Caleb, for telling me that.
Yeah, I know. So apparently in this game, for you, somebody mentioned to me, I think it may have been you, about something about the troll hag shooting that ended up happening.
I'm sorry, what?
Like you did like an absurd amount of damage with the troll hag shooting.
Oh yeah, the troll hag did 12 damage in one shooting attack. Because almost all of them went through. I did the -1 save spell, which by the way, I tell you what, for having no bonuses to casting at this tournament, I like almost never failed the spell. It was until on day 1, when I won all 3 games, I like never failed a single spell. I got Pendulum off like 3 times. I got every game I got Pendulum off. I got the hag spell at least twice, and it was just insane how well. So yeah, basically it's a -1 to hit, -1 save on his War Stomper, and when that happened, it's a 5-up save. All my attacks go through, and so I ended up doing a straight 12 damage to it. And,
with the hag shooting.
Yeah, because he couldn't. He had that reroll save thing that Cliff had as well, but it didn't matter because he couldn't even make a save. So
yeah.
And then she went into combat and like did another like 8 damage with her staff. Like she just beat the shit out.
So like 20 damage in one turn.
It was so, and I think she ended up taking some damage, but she ended up healing all of it by the end of the game.
Yeah, the D6 heal is big.
Well, I was like, I could not roll below a 5 on the heal. It was
Jeez.
Nasty. So.
Yeah, the damage output from that army, if you're not ready for it, like we played at one of the locals with that versus my snake list, and it was pretty brutal too. It was just a slugfest, and it just came down to Marathi outlasting you.
Yeah, I mean that's really the whole point. Is it's like it's a really low wound army, but it you have a lot better sustain, and I think that's the only reason why I won against him and the other ones is the resurrection and the healing and the feel no pains just really stack up. I think if I calculated it, most of my games I start out at like the 90 wounds that my list is, and I end up well over 120, 130 wounds by the end of the game just off of that stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's
You got anything about your game 3, Gavin?
And I won the day. I won all 3 of my games day 1. I was really happy.
Yeah.
With trolls.
That's good. Yeah, for my game 3, I could play Bill Carroll. But I hadn't been able to play before. I'd always heard really good things about Bill, because he's like kind of known in the community as being like a really excellent sport, just like a really good person to have in the community. He's always really helpful to you when you're playing, and winning is maybe his like 3rd or 4th down the list of like what's important to him. Yeah. He's got a whole bunch of other things that are more important to him than winning that, like, I also agree with. But we had a really fun game. He was playing Night Haunt, and what kind of was a fly in the ointment for him throughout the game was I had the Khorne Demon Prince. So a lot of what Night Haunt is doing is coming out of Deep Strike and trying to make long bomb charges. And the Khorne Demon Prince has your charges. So he couldn't come out of Deep Strike and make charges on my back line, because I was kind of screening him out, and I was kind of like just closing the board, a little bit at a time, and he couldn't drop all my objectives and charge them. So what happened is that he eventually had to commit, and he committed at the right time because he had stacked the favors. It was kind of in his favor. He stacked it to where he was playing for the double turn, and he dropped his Black Coach and his Mourngol to try and make a charge where I didn't have my screen up, and he failed the charges, and then I got the turn roll off, and he lost his Mourngol and his Black Coach. And from there, he still stayed in the game a really long time. Like, we went all the way to the end. But without that, he just couldn't remove my models very effectively, because in Night Haunt, you don't have a lot of damage to begin with, and your Mourngol and your Black Coach is like that's where your damage comes from. So they were together. So I juiced the Knights up and charged both and killed them both in one combat phase. Yeah. And that was kind of like the turning point in the game. But it was a really fun game, and I'm really glad I got to play Bill. And
I'm grudging Bill.
Super nice guy.
I keep telling him
every game I've ever played against him, like Gavin said, winning is way down the list of priorities. And I think his opponent having fun and not feeling like they had a bad game is like his number one priority. Like, he wants to make sure everybody has a good time, and almost to the point where he'll talk you into winning a game that you're probably about to do something that's going to lose it for you. So that's good to have guys like that in the community. I've always been a big fan of Bill from the first time we played, and I will continue to be a big fan of Bill.
Yeah, that is one thing that I would say this tournament was really interesting, is that I don't think there was a single time where I felt uncomfortable telling my opponent about a big mistake they were about to do, or vice versa. I felt like at no point did it feel like someone was hiding something from me. That, there's always that time where you see something completely obvious, but that they're about to do, but they themselves can't see it. And I feel like that was something that usually you would expect at a GT-like event that people would try not to say anything to do that, but it was just a really good sportsman-like tournament.
Yeah,
I should say. Yeah.
It felt really nice because it was towards the end of Texas Masters. It got like real cutthroat. Everybody was trying to win.
Well, that's why I kept
hearing. And it kind of just kept escalating,
yeah.
And like it got to at the end, like a lot of people were really invested in winning. So it was refreshing to see like that kind of atmosphere.
I think everyone was just
the
glad.
Kind of atmosphere that I like to see. So
yeah, I think everyone was just happy to finally have a tournament they can go to.
I think so. It's just been so long. We're like, holy shit! Like, I'm just glad I get to play. Like,
well, I
pizza,
think it was going to be a fun event,
yeah,
like that because of the list that I saw people bring. Like, Caleb Hastings has Fangs of Sotek, but knows that it's a nightmare to play against, and figured, why bring like the nastiest thing I can bring? And he brought a really awesome to look at list, a fun to play against list, and I'm not going to pretend like it can't win, because it's a whole gang of Stegodons, like a gang of them. It's insane to look at on the table.
What's a herd of Stegodons called?
I think Sebastian charged 2 of them with Archaon one time and did like 3 damage, and they turned around and walloped Archaon. Speaking Sebastian, he got Archaon killed more times in this tournament than I have in a whole year of playing tournaments. Every game by the end of round 1, except I think 1, it made it to turn 3. Archaon was dead. I was like, how is Archaon dead? He just slammed it into everything. He didn't care. Just total disregard. Like, oh, all my buffs didn't go off? Oh, well.
Isn't that why Archaon was created? To just push forward?
Yeah.
That's
He looked like he was having fun. That was
good.
Ask
our friend Thomas, that's what he would say Archaon was created for. To just ram around and die.
Thomas do same thing. Same result. Why no word? Why no word? Like, you didn't buff him, dude. You gotta buff him first. Like, so.
Oh, Ryan in the chat called me Salt Incarnate. Yes, I am the Salt. In fact, I am the minister of propaganda, like against Lumineth Realm Lords, and I will continue.
Oh goodness. Let's save that for another time. Maybe we'll talk about the update some other time.
Oh, I'm not talking about the update. I would have still poured salt on them the way they were. It's like a slug on my doorway.
Maybe we can have that as another trophy next time. Because Salt Fest, just have a little salt shaker for whoever wins it.
Nah, I don't mind what people want to play.
Salt lick.
Yeah. Best in faction, Lumineth Realm Lords. You just get a salt lick from Tractor Supply,
big
dude.
old block.
There's your reward.
At least you win something, I guess. It's an honor.
That's all you deserve, too. Dirty Lumineth Realm Lords player.
Ryan says 56 minutes in first mention of Lumineth, new record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very careful to not mention that James was playing Lumineth.
You know you love it. You know you love it.
Oh, goodness. So, was that everyone's game 3?
Yeah.
Day 2, game 4. How'd you do?
Game 4 was Focal Points, the mission where behemoths score extra points, which is a pretty good mission for me because I have 2 frigates in the Ironclad, so I've got a lot of ways to score extra points. My opponent was Mitch, which I'm fairly sure this is. He's fairly new to big events and things. He had a pretty cool Deepkin army. And coming to the game with Mitch, we were kind of talking, and I was wondering what his Tidecaster, what spell she had, because it wasn't written on his list. I was like, hey, what spell are you using, man? And he goes, oh, I'm not. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, I didn't pick a lore spell because I don't use it. I just use her war scroll spell. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, hey, that's great, man. And just kind of, Mitch is a really funny guy. If you ever get to play him, it's a hoot to play him. He was that's what he said about the spell, and he said he was just trying to place high in the event, high enough to where he could win the Arachnarok that was on the table because he wanted to burn it in the parking lot.
What a shame.
A man with convictions. I respect it.
He had a goal in mind and he accomplished it.
Yeah, he did. He ended up accomplishing that.
I just wanted to see it. Like I was wanting to watch it.
Wondering, like, what did the Ragnaroks ever do to you? And he's like, oh, I don't like them. No particular reason.
Not because they're garbage to play, or
like that they exist.
He doesn't like the model, or he's scared of spiders. It's just, I just don't fucking like it.
So, anyway, about our game. We both had 3 drops, and I placed first, so I got to decide who went first. And we kind of talked a little bit about it, and he talked about how he always likes to make his opponent go first, because it's, having to be able to control the double turn, especially with Deepkin, is a really good thing to do. And I also said I like to go second when I can. There's nothing important for me to kill. So what ended up happening was I gave him first turn, and he moved up, took the middle objective. I was deployed far enough back that he couldn't get a charge off into me with anything. But I was up on the objectives with my Arcanauts, so he couldn't actually steal it with a run. So he just didn't try, and instead he moved the shield wheels to the middle, and they were screening his Leviathan. And then he moved the Sharks, his 2 Alapexes, up on the other side, with Volturnos right behind them. And then all of his Morsar were hiding, like screening his back line, and all in the middle where I couldn't target it. And this normally, especially after they deal with the Warp Lightning Vortex being in KO, I believe, After that happens, I think Deepkin is a really good matchup into KO because you can stop their shooting. Deepkin has a role that allows you to only be shot at if you're the closest, and you have a unit that cannot take rend. They're ethereal with a high save, so with their shield deals. And KOs just can't deal with them normally without mortal wounds. But right now they have Warp Lightning Vortex, so I was able to drop Warp Lightning Vortex on his
For now.
Eels and his Leviathan, with the Leviathan right in the center of it. And did a sprinkling of mortal wounds, I think 8 to all the combined units and over the 2 pulses. And it ended up being 5 to Leviathan. And the most important thing that was going to come up at this later was it also turns off fly and running. And there was some terrain on the board. And what I ended up doing was as I was moving up with all my boats, I was stringing out my Arcanauts in a huge line. So that if he had gotten the turn, his Leviathan would have been trapped by the Arcanauts. He would have killed the Arcanauts, but he couldn't have gotten into my boats or anything. But I killed his 2 Alopexes on the side with all my shooting, and I did a big charge with my Skyhook boat, my Skyhook frigate into Volturnos, and used the Sky Mines on him, and several other things, and ended up getting the double. And when I got the double, we decided to call it there because his backline was kind of exposed at that point.
KO double.
And
That's nasty.
he was a little disheartened by the Warp Lightning, which makes sense. It's kind of it does that to people. So, but that was the end of the game. Mitch was a really fun guy to play. Our game was pretty quick, and we just got to walk around and talk and hang out after that.
Got to come watch my game for a while.
Yeah, got to go tell Evan what to do and have him get mad at me.
Yeah, I've played Mitch a few times. He's always been fun. I remember one particular game where he won the turn roll off and probably could have ended it with Blades of Corn. I was playing Blades of Corn, and he had like 3 stone horns, like 6 inches away from my army. And he was like, "You can have the turn." I was like, I can have it. Like, oh, okay, well, let's do this then. And I brought that up to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I came there to play games. So
Yeah.
I see it that I could have ended that game right then." He's like, so let's play games. Like, let's play some more games. Let's play some more of this game. So he's always been a fun guy to play.
Yeah. Well, my 4th game was very probably. I would say, like I said, it was tied with my 3rd game for, I think, one of the closest games I've ever had. I was fighting James, and I fought Lumineth quite a few times by now, and so I kind of knew how trolls matched up into them, and that was going to be a bit of an uphill battle for me, just with the -1 and the casting and my low bravery and all that. So I actually took the turn first. I think, yeah, because we were both 3 drops, and I think I ended up going up first. I know I went first, but I think I chose it because I wanted to set it up in a way that I took the center objective, because he had so much stuff that I knew if he went first and he moved up his stuff on it, that it was just not gonna. I wasn't gonna be able to get him off of it. So I moved up my trolls, got on the objective, and then since the behemoths get the extra points, I had my troll hag who counts towards that, and he didn't have one. So I was trying to play off of that advantage, move the troll hag to an objective to try to take one of them, and then I was trying all game. I think I only got it off 1 turn, trying to set up the Arachna Cauldron so that it was just long enough between the 2 models that I could actually cap both the center objective and one of the back objectives for the double points. So that was really what I was kind of hoping to play off of. And so turn 1, I ended up getting 2, 4, 5 points. No, it was 5 points. That's what it was. Yeah, and then I was waiting for him, and then I kind of set it up in a very defensive structure because he had 2 flanks of Dawn Riders that I knew they were going to just get wherever they needed to. And so when he went, he did all his casting, got all of his stuff off, had probably one of the worst shooting phases I've ever seen. because I think he did like a total of 4 mortal wounds because I saved everything and he just did not roll very well. Between 40 shots from, or 36 shots of the Sentinels, it just was a really bad shooting phase. And then he got Darkness of the Soul off on the 6 block of trolls that I had up in the center. But they actually passed it when it got to the combat phase. I was actually able to pass it because he moved up in a way that he was trying to cap it with. He had 2 10 blocks of wardens. One stayed in Shining Host, the other one broke Shining Host to try to attack so that he could get within it and get a free attack off on my troll block that was there, and also cap the objective. What ended up happening is he did like a total of 2 mortals to the trolls, and then they passed the battle or the Darkness of the Soul, and then swung into it and killed all of those wardens. So not only did I keep the objective, but he lost an entire unit out of it. Not only that, he had another round of bad luck. His first turn was just probably like we were both pretty astonished. He moved the Sentinels, or I'm sorry, it's not the Dawn Wardens on one of the flanks. Speed of Hish them, moved them all the way up, stayed right outside of 3 inches of one of my objectives, and he would have capped it. And he actually decided to. The only way he could have capped it was actually breaking the whatever
The host.
The Shining Company.
Shining Host. He had to break it, get in within the 3 with all 5 of them, and then he actually charged my warden or charged my Fellwaters. And when he did that, the problem was that the Fellwaters are 4 wounds apiece, so he doesn't get any of the buffs from the Dawn Rider's abilities. And then on top of that, I'm -1 to hit. And between the 2 of those, he actually got 1 wound through on the Fellwaters. And then the Fellwaters swung through and killed 4 out of 5 of them. So he ended up not getting any objectives, lost a unit of Wardens, and almost lost a unit of Dawn Riders. So it was a really tough thing. And then I won the roll-off. So then the game kind of turned into my favor at that point because now he only got the 2 points that first turn. So then I got the roll off, went in, had killed off the rest of those Dawn Riders, kind of moved up in a way to try to hold the center objective because I knew I just needed to hold out as long as possible with that. Got the Arachna Cauldron off, so I got the 2 objectives from the 2 extra points from the Troll Hag. And then the 6 block of trolls that I had on the other side ran up and charged the other 5 block of Dawn Riders he had sitting nearby and killed those. So now he had no Dawn Riders. He had no way to outflank me or try to get behind me, and he had to cap. Or he was basically stuck on his side. Well, and so I just ended the turn at that point because there was nothing else I could have done because Darkness of the Soul was still active at that point. So I was having a bit of a hard. I didn't pass it at all, I don't think. And then
Bravery 5.
Yeah, well,
6.
it was
Okay.
-1 bravery, so I'm sitting at something like 4 bravery,
Yeah.
or 5 bravery because I had the +1 from the Trog boss. So it was just. Oh, actually, no, it was 4 because he put the -1 on me on top of the spell. So. Yeah, I wasn't passing that. I was surprised I got it off the first time. So then I ended that turn, and now I'm sitting at 11 points at the my end of turn 2. So then he moved everything up. Well, first he dispelled the Arachna Cauldron, sadly, and then he killed everything in the center. He put the Darkness of the Soul on the 6 block that I had on the far side. And basically, for the rest of the game, that thing only got 1 movement phase. It never did anything else because of the Darkness of the Soul. It was just trapped there for the rest of the game, and that really was like the deciding factor is having the 280 points I had there tied up, and also I couldn't resurrect them because they weren't dead. So I did get a resurrection off. And basically we just played the game of attrition, but I just could not hold out long enough, and he ended up capping enough objectives that he was able to beat me by 2 points at the end of the game. So it was, but his shooting was just not helpful. I think the total 4 turns that we did, he maybe got 12 mortal wounds off, 12 to 15 mortal wounds off with the shooting, which was just, and he had Lambent Light on 2 of that, Power of Hish on almost all of it. So it was just really bad shooting on his part, but the Wardens ended up carrying the day. So yeah, it was a
How did your shooting do? I know your list has a lot.
Oh yeah,
right?
My shooting,
almost all of it shoots.
Yeah, my shooting, the Rock Guts did very well. Whatever they threw it at, I think it went through, but I was doing like 1 to 2 mortals, nothing serious. And he also had the, I think at the start of turn 2, he actually had the, they had a Feel No Pain from the protection spell. So
right.
I did. James did point out in the chat that I actually did get a charge off with that 6 block. I think it was the very last turn. I was like, I just need to charge, get the kill, and I can set it up in a way where like there's a chance that I get the 2 side objectives. But then Darkness of the Soul passed on the combat phase, so I didn't get to do anything. So it was really it always hurts when Darkness of the Soul or the other spell that does that ends up being the determining factor that ties you down. Like especially with a Destruction faction where you're such a low bravery already, it's kind of a game killer. But I think for what I did, I mean the Hag didn't die, and I think for what I did, like that was probably the best game I could have run against Lumineth. And James is a really good player, so I find it quite an honor to have given him such a tough time. I know we were contemplating whether or not he could win by the end of turn 2. So I mean, I'm glad I could put him on his toes like that, especially a Lumineth army and James as well. So yeah, good game, James.
Yeah,
that's it.
He's absolutely one of the best players around, like no doubt about it. You never beat James West and come out of it happy. Like you hate your life for 2.5 hours. I promise. Like it is not an enjoyable experience.
My brain kind of hurt after fighting him. That part is true.
Not that it always had a player to play against, but it is. He ain't quitting on turn 3 just because it looks like he might not be able to win.
But James did stop me from fighting Zach for game 5. That's what I was hoping for. 2 monkeys duking it out. Game 5.
Yeah, we almost got to play. It almost happened.
So, yeah, how'd your ringer game go?
I played Sebastian. So one of the 5 times that Archeon died was against Chaos Knights. First turn, he forgot some of his buffs, and these were the first 5 games of this army that he played. Like of Age of Sigmar, by the way. He hadn't played the army or Age of Sigmar, so he was trying to figure out how to play this army, like on the fly. But
well, he
went like really fast and
crumble up that activation sheet that I spent 2 hours making for him.
He saw what he needed to do and decided to do the opposite.
Yeah, I'll take my game plan's better than that shit, bro.
Honestly, if you told
he just started rolling. He's like, okay, I'm doing this buff. I'm like, hold on, wait. Like I play this army too. You should do these buffs first so we can. Just slow down.
I mean, if I was a new player,
everything,
and you gave me Archeon, I would probably treat him the same way too. I just just go kill things.
Yeah, it's not quite as straightforward as he seems, but he still failed all his buffs, and then he failed his Dark Prophecy roll and told me that he failed it after he failed it. And then went in with Vanguard and Archeon anyways. And then he did some damage to Jugs, and then the Jugs moved out of the way, and the Knights killed Archeon. Yeah. And then I had the turn because he told me that he rolled Dark Prophecy. And then I killed the rest of his army. And it was like an 18-minute game. We had fun. We laughed about it. And then we went and hung out a little bit afterwards. He's like, yeah, these are all my first games. And he seemed like he was having fun despite taking the Lamborghini and slamming it into the median.
There is something interesting to watch when you do that.
Took my Lambo and crushed it.
Yeah, the reason why they're so popular on YouTube.
Dents all over Ryan's. He's like, yeah, I did good, right? And then it's like that Jackass skit where they return their rental car and there's like the hood's missing and it's all spray painted. And like, yeah, it's fine, right?
Derby and
So, but that was our game. We had fun. It was cool. He's a good guy. I hadn't played him before. And he seems like a fun guy to hang out with.
He's one of the guys that I play with up there. I've been trying to slowly, bring him along, and I feel like it's kind of my fault because he was always playing things, and I was always trying out more competitive stuff, and I haven't always been good about taking the foot off the gas. I take the floorboard out of my list so I can smash that shit even further down.
All gas, no brakes. That's all we do.
So, but I really am looking forward to him. I've been helping him get some lists together. It looks like he's working on some Slanesh builds with possibly Archaon. So he wants to he wants to get 5 games back. So
redemption.
Yeah, he's ready.
We'll go 4 games.
So it was fun.
So how'd the finals go for you, Zach?
Oh, game 5. So going into game 5, I noticed we were kind of looking at the score sheet and everything. I noticed that Kyle Valdez and James West were playing at table 2. So the winner of that had a chance to win the tournament as well. I noticed that they both had 59 tournament points. So if whoever won that game, if they got 20 points, they would have 79. And I had 77 going into game 5. So I noticed that if I scored 3 secondary points, I'd be at 80. So no matter who got 20 there, even if they got 20, I'd still win the event. So what I decided to do was I was just going to go for secondaries and just have a fun game with Ryan. Me and Ryan have played a ton of games. We played a lot. So we know each other really well on the table, and we're both pretty competitive people. So it was just going to be better for everyone if we just had fun. And so that's what we did. We had a fun game. I took the first turn. I scored my secondaries. One of the secondaries was Assassinate, where you pick one of your own units, and if your opponent kills it, they score the secondary. And that was one of the ones I knew I needed to score. I needed to take all the objectives. I needed to kill his Assassinate target, and I needed to protect mine, because I wasn't going to be able to keep him from taking all the objectives if I did these things. So I took first turn, scored all the objectives, put everything I had into his one of his units that he had picked for Assassinate, and then I chose my Ironclad as my Assassinate target because it's the hardest thing in my already kill, and I put it in the corner, and I left it in the corner all game. And so I knew if I did that, and I kept my healing engine riggers with him, even if he targeted it, I could heal it back up. So Brian just decided, I'm not going to kill it, so I'm just going to leave it there. And we played a game in the middle with 1,400 points of my army against his army, and it was a blast seeing what I could do with that. And I ended up he tabled that part of the army by turn 4, I think, and he was almost tabled himself as well. So it was a bloodbath in the middle without the Ironclad. The Ironclad just watching from the skies as it happened.
Zach was tying his arm behind his back, like, all right, you ready to do this? Let's go.
Yeah, come on, Ryan. No, but it was a really fun game. I don't know if I could have won the game if the reason I made the decision in the end was we were playing in Kamon, and the way he deployed, I knew I couldn't kill Teclis round 1, even with everything. And the problem on that mission is if I don't kill Teclis, he just kills my whole army with Searing Light, because I can't hide from it. It's just going to hit my whole army every time he casts, and if he goes second, then he's going to do it twice, and that's going to be most of my army dead. So, with it being Kamon, the reason that made this decision is because Kamon's the spell is +1 to save. So I knew that anytime I tried to kill Teclis, he's going to have +3 to his save, and I wasn't going to get him turn 1 because he was screened. So I don't know if I play that game fully, if I even win, because of those things. So I decided, I'm just going to go for the secondaries and
get the guaranteed win.
I take the guaranteed tournament win and just have a fun game rather than gamble, because there's no reason. We would have been playing a really hard game where nobody knew they were going to win, and there just wasn't a reason for it, because we could have just had fun, and that would have been a much more fun time, and that's what we ended up doing.
Very cool. Just
relaxed and talked and shot the shit, played, and he ended up winning the game. I ended up scoring my secondaries, and as a result, Kyle ended up awarding this thing for me to hang on to until the next grand tournament. It's the Texas Masters hammer that Gavin and I single-handedly brought to Houston after the last Texas Masters season.
Mm-hmm.
But no, We had a lot of fun with that too. I messed around with it. But,
Is that actual metal?
anyway.
Like,
No, it's not.
I hear it like clanking up against.
I think it's 3D printed, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's super nice. I don't know if you've seen it in person, but it says Texas Masters on it, and the middle part says "Come and take it here."
Where's our season, Texas Masters? Where's season?
You guys gave him such a tough time last season.
Yeah, we just mess with them. We like messing with people. If you haven't figured that out yet, that's our main goal. We're just here to mess with people.
I swear we don't take ourselves as seriously as some people read into our memes and shit. Like,
Yeah. There's a reason we chose Harambe for the title of our club, and it's because we're just messing around. That's all it is. But that was my game 5. You can take it away.
My game 5 was incredibly frustrating. I fought Mitchell and Deepkin, and pretty similar setup where we were talking it out beforehand. And at this time, I knew that both of us were knocked out of the running, anyways, as far as winning. So I was just playing for best destruction, and he knew he can get best order, so he was just more or less like, screw it, I want to have some fun. And he was just looking forward to fighting trolls. So we started off, and he was telling me that he really hates going first. Like, he's like, and I got it. So I was like, well, I'm less drops, I'll go first, because I wanted to try to cap all the objectives and just see how that, or at least get 5 of the objectives potentially. And so I ended up getting the teleport off, got the troll hag forward, and so I ended up getting all 6 objectives turn 1. And I was trying to set it up in a way, because I know that if he gets the charge off on his eels, they're just going through. I don't have a save because it's just 5-up save minus 2 rend. So, but I was hoping I could mitigate a lot of the damage, or at least tie him down. So it was just a really tough match where, like, I was I was rolling Feel No Pains like crazy, but he was rolling ridiculous amount of attacks and damage going through. On the first, I could tell how the game was going to go when he got Volturnos into combat with some of the trolls on turn 2, and he rolled out of the 4 attacks 3 6s. So minus 5 rend, just goes straight through. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay, well, I can see where this is gonna go. And then it was like 8 damage on the D3. I think it was like 2 3s and a 2, and I was just like, oh my god. So I lost those trolls faster than I thought, and he just moved up and just started wailing on me. The troll hag actually died, even with her getting the heal, because what ended up happening is, like, I was pretty much done on turn 1 after because he killed everything faster than I thought he could. Moved up, had everything ready, where in turn 2, if he won the roll-off, the game was already over. And he got the roll-off. But he's like, look, we're not going to win anything today. Let's try to just keep the game going. So he actually gave me the turn on that, which I appreciate. I still lost because of it, but I still lost. So, but it kept the game going. I got the heal off. I dropped the pendulum and did 6 mortal wounds to the Leviathan. Which, thank you, Zach, for telling me about the pendulum, adding that in my list. I thought it was kind of crazy, but that thing, like, I think did close to 30 mortal wounds this entire tournament. So that thing was crazy.
It pairs well with your low drops teleport.
Yep. So, and then I kept, like, baiting with it was the funniest thing. So he had 3 Ishlan Guard units, models sitting on one of the objectives. I was trying to make sure that he had nothing, or as few models in combat with me, with the stuff that I didn't want to die on turn 3, because I know turn 3 high tide, he gets all the stuff off. So I moved the little fungoid cave shaman onto one of the objectives, so that he couldn't move his Ishlan Guard off without losing that objective. And I was just like, well, he's just gonna die. Let me bait him out. And he already had 1 wound taken. He only had 3 wounds left. So then turn 3 in, went into it, and he had only, like, just the Morsar left and that 1 Ishlan Guard. Everything else was pretty much dead. He ended up moving everything, killing it. Volturnos had like some ridiculous amount of attacks, killed a 3-block of Fell Waters, and then the Resurrected Rock Guts were all I had left over there. And he had two of the shield eels left. They charged into the Fungoid, and he had 1 wound left because he made all his Feel No Pains. He made all his Feel No Pains, and then on my turn, I actually did the mortal wounds through the cauldron, like to him, and then it was something else I did, but it was just super gimmicky. I was like, I can't believe he survived on that. So it was the funniest thing because now that was tied down, but I didn't get the resurrect off on my previous turn, so I had nothing left on the board. And when we did the math, he would have been like 4 or 5 points ahead of me. So I couldn't pull off the victory for that. So
yeah,
it's okay. It was a great game, and I appreciate the good sportsmanship. I mean, he could have easily thrown the game if by giving me that turn on that turn too. So I appreciate him taking the risk. He still ended up winning, but there was a very good chance because I had all 6 points, and each turn one of those objectives is burned. So he could have easily lost if I had done a little bit better on my damage, and he would have done a little bit less on his. So
yeah,
good game. So, but yeah, how about you, Gavin?
I played Kevin Rand game 5,
Bone Reaper,
and I played Kevin before. He's a really good guy to play. I was glad that he was able to come play the tournament. So the interaction between Ossiarch Bone Reapers with Mortic Garden Harvesters and a combat army is pretty brutal, and I knew that, so I tried to control as many objectives as I could early, and kind of tried to force him to make some longer charges. And he made all the long charges that he needed to make. I went up with my Demon Prince and got on top of a piece of terrain and captured the objective in front of him, hoping that he wouldn't be able to make the charge to the Demon Prince, and I could kind of screw with his charge rolls throughout the course of the game. But he made the charge. It was like I think he had to roll like a 9 or a 10, and he wound up rolling it. And they killed the Demon Prince, and as soon as that happened, the game was kind of like that was a turning point. And he lawnmowered my whole army, and it wasn't too long of a game.
Yeah,
but it was fun. It's always fun to play Kevin, and it was like it's always cool to see. He was only 1 or 2 death players at the tournament, so it was cool to see a death army there too. This kind of like players have migrated away from death as like the newer stuff's come out. Maybe
so
not
cool
for
long.
seeing
it that it got me wanting to play it.
I was like, not for long. You got Great Lords coming out.
yeah, vampires.
You're gonna see
soon.
Death make a resurgence.
Yeah, hopefully. It's better. The game's better when Death's in it. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But it's a fun game. It's always fun to play Kevin. He's a good guy. So
yeah,
very cool.
That's it.
Brian, you have any big standout things from the event from top down?
It was funny to walk up there. I had never seen James West ever like on that early in the game be like, I think he just won. Like I've never seen him shook like that, and to do it against Evan and his trolls. But then we went and sat down and we're like, yeah, I mean he said that, but now for 2 hours we get to watch him crawl back into this. So and he did. So again, I mean, there were so many things. I was so busy. I was going around trying to get a lot of pictures. The armies, for the most part, looked great. There were a couple unpainteds, but even those had some really good models in there that you could tell it was just a matter of time before those armies get painted up and they get finished out and look really good.
I think a good portion of us were waiting to the last. And I know I think I finished mine Friday
we didn't have a GT
morning
forever.
Yeah. So, I think even Cliff, the notorious painting 2 minutes before the tournament, got his off a whole day early. He's like, I don't know what to do now.
You know what? Jeff coming out. Jeff's a good buddy of mine. We do a lot of painting and stuff together, and I bounce a lot of stuff off of him. And getting him out there and letting him do his first tournament ever, and I think he did a 3-2 or 2-3 maybe, but he was doing really well. I mean, he had a Nurgle slaves list that was a little bit tough to decide on how to play it, especially with so much destruction there. Like picking your battles was important. But it was good to see him out there. It was good to see Trevor out, Kyle, a lot of these guys we haven't seen in a long time. So just hanging out with the boys, that was my big thing from the weekend. It was a fun time, and I didn't have to play, so I got to walk around and just laugh at people. The hardest thing in the world as a TO to do when you're as competitive of a guy as I am, especially when your army's in that event, is not telling them, hey, don't do that. Like you walk by and see it, and it's like, wait a minute, did you get all your buffs on Arcan? Why is he charging in there? That's 2 Stegodons, bro. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that smoke.
Don't matter to Jesus, dude.
Yeah, no. No.
Did you have a front row seat for game 1, Kyle versus Ryan?
I know I did. I was right next to him.
There, watching him do those rolls. And as a TO, you'd be impartial, but as an Archaon lover and a Techless hater, I was like, make that save, Kyle. Not that I was rooting against Ryan, but it was a fun thing to just watch him sit there and come down to 1 wound left on that Archaon. Like, won the game by 1 wound. It was so crazy. Well, he was down to like 3 wounds, and then Ryan was like, wait, game's not over. I can charge you with these wardens. And then I'm like, oh, it's over. It's over. Those wardens are going in, and sat there and just tanked it all. It was insane.
The Archaon needs to be painted gold, I think.
Yeah, that was a fun one to watch. It was just so much. There was so much going on. It was hard to pick a moment. But when I watched Brandon Ridge go in on Kevin's OBR like early, like 20 Mortec with a harvester behind him, I was like, ooh, with a Maw Crusher. Like Gavin said earlier, that's like one of like 2 things in this whole game you can't kill. And you just went in. Like, whatever, dude. He knows what he's about. Like, I know what I came here to do.
Yeah. He removed his floorboard too, so he could just smash that gas pedal.
Yeah, dude.
The floorboard fell off by the end of the tournament.
Yeah.
The floorboard left. Fred Flintstone in that shit.
Like, it was just fun. It was a blast to hang out. I mean, again, we're all competitive players. We all know what a 5-game tournament feels like. But it was just as exhausting at the end of it being a TO in that thing. It was like, not that I had to try hard to do anything, but just it was a buildup. I guess it felt like the adrenaline I had the rush there when it finally hit because all the buildup to it and all the work beforehand. But I learned it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's not the hardest thing in the world either. Like putting a GT together.
Well, we still thank you for doing that for us. It was definitely...
It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. It was us, dude. You guys did it, man.
We're all desperate.
Yeah, and we're probably looking at maybe June if something doesn't pop up for Texas Masters time frame. Now with some other things we know are coming up in the future, maybe doing another one around June. Maybe Goldmine. I'll talk to Mike, and Mike is, maybe get us a spot in there to do some stuff down at Goldmine Games. Mike gave a ton of prize support. Fat Ogre gave a ton of prize support. So just great. Another thanks to them. Those guys really helped out. And Mike gave insane 3 big boxes, a Feast of Bone box, a Lumineth box, and an Aether Wars box. It was $600 worth of product that he just gave us to give you guys for free. So
Atomic too, right?
To Mike. Yeah, well, Atomic, I never got the stuff from Atomic.
I see.
But Ogre gave us a good amount of stuff too. So there was enough prize support for everybody. That was kind of our goal to make sure everyone got something. That was a big part. Like we wanted everything to go into it, and then lunch and stuff. But probably around June, we may set up another one. We're looking at the dates on what me and Gavin can put together. So if we get it figured out, it may be up on Eventbrite and slammed into the Discord near you soon. So
I wanted to mention this is like a potential side project that we've been talking about, but we were talking. Brian and I were talking about doing some bat reps for at Goldmine for like some recordings and stuff, and we'd like to if there's any potential players that want to like try participate in them, we'd love to possibly look at having you guys. So if you guys have anything, like let us know like that you have interest in it. We're trying to do painted armies. We're gonna. It's still a ways off, but it's something that we've talked about.
Yeah, it's like 6-month plan, and like one of the things is you're going to need a fully painted army. So whatever if you want to come play, just get painting
Still
and get
baby
something ready.
stages,
Because
but if I can get some people who are interested
want-
in it, so I can try to plan it out. I like to get as far in advance as possible.
And know that we're probably going to be playing some more competitive stuff. That's kind of the focus of our channel and kind of what we do. We talk more about the more competitive side of it. So if you do come out, just, we'll obviously talk, but there's going to be a competitive list on that table, even if you don't bring one. Like, that's what we kind of focus on. So,
yeah.
But yeah, thanks to you guys. You are the community, man. You guys made this happen. Without everyone signing up on Eventbrite, like, this wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, all I did is create an event on a website. So, you guys did it. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
cool. All right. Well,
take care, guys.
Thanks for everyone. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Peace.
We are done.